5 plays, they may have to play 25 plays.
Let's dig deeper on these injuries. When could these guys come back? Dr. Scott Adams has the answers.
Injury Report is brought to you by Orthopedic Associates of Central Maryland. In pain, contact the experts at Orthopedic Associates of Central Maryland at mdbonedocs.com. Care this good feels good to the bone. Injury Report.
Doc, let's start with the corners. Marcus Peters is active today, so he's making his season debut. But specifically Brandon Stevens, who has a quad injury. Marlon Humphrey suffered a groin injury. So two-parter here. Are corners who are having more explosive movements more susceptible to these soft tissue injuries? And it's got to hobble them even more because their game is all about sprinting and turning and cutting on a dime.
Sure, that is a risk factor for any kind of muscle injury, and the quad is usually a muscle strain, and the groin is usually a muscle strain. And so not only are they at risk for having it, if they do have it, then it may slow them down if they are able to go, because they just may not have that explosiveness that they need. And that's going to factor into the decision on whether they're even cleared to play. If they don't have the explosiveness they need, then they're probably not going to play. It also suggests that perhaps they are still at a little bit higher risk of re-injury, so then they would hold them out another week.
Hey, Doc, with the ACLs, with Dobbins, and he had ACL, MCL, and then Gus Edwards just had the ACL. Why, Dobbins is practicing and Gus isn't practicing, and Dobbins had a worse injury? What do you think?
Sure, great question. And I think it's really just the recovery process. It is not uncommon to have an MCL injury in the setting of an ACL injury.
That's what I had.
Yeah, and the MCL usually will recover quicker than the ACL. And so I think it's more an issue of just one, having more of their endurance and their strength and their balance and everything they need in order to be able to be safe to go back just a little bit quicker. And it may be a coincidence that one was an ACL and an MCL and just happened to be back sooner.
Like with Dobbins, to get that last 5 degrees or that last 10 degrees, because that's where his, explosiveness and the speed and stuff comes. How hard is it to get that last 5 or 10%?
Yeah, that arguably is probably one of the tougher things, and that is what takes so long for folks to get back, is because early on you can get your motion back and you can get the swelling down and you can kind of get a lot of the early trauma recovered, but it's really getting that last little bit of explosiveness, that last little bit of strength, and we really want to see that injured leg as close as possible to the uninjured leg to lower the risk of re-injury, because that's obviously the biggest concern with one of these severe injuries like an ACL tear, is making sure that we minimize the chance of re-injury. And a lot of times it is just nitpicking the last few little details to feel safe clearing someone.
Doc, last thing for you, and this is pure speculation here, but we've seen very much a trend. When running backs have this knee injury, it takes years to get back. Saquon Barkley is the perfect example. He had a great week 1. Do you have any theory why running backs in particular, it takes so much longer?
Yeah, I think the demands that we expect of them. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the statistics just aren't great with running backs. I think their kind of career longevity is often on the smaller side. I mean, they just take so many hits, and their whole game is based on cutting, planting, twisting, pretty much everything that the ACL is required for. And so it just takes them a lot longer than, let's say, a pocket passing quarterback who just has to go back and dodge a couple people. I mean, the whole running back's job is to cut, twist, plant, turn, and that's where the ACL is really being put to the test.
He's Dr. Scott Adams. Doc, thanks so much for taking the time. We'll talk next week.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Yep. We got it. Coming up next, climbing the depth chart. Some guys are climbing the depth chart because of injuries by default. And we're going to go behind enemy lines. Lamar Jackson, he's going to be talking